Hey gang, good morning. About 9:30 on Sunday morning, the 5th of April, I'm putting this short presentation together for your tabletop exercise chapter, section, and whatever you want to call it. We have talked ad nauseum about tabletop exercises, so I'm not going to run through the PowerPoint like I normally would, but what I'm going to do is just give you some tips, some extra little things. And while some of you you're probably going, oh well, we already know that, right? One of my first ones is going to be goals, right? You're going to be setting your objectives. So we talk a lot about that. But I just wanted to sort of take a different approach. You can read through the slides. I don't need to read through them for you. So I want to make this a little more, not interactive because it's just a video, but something where you're getting a little extra than you would get just from reading the text or reading through the slides. So this week I have attached a bunch of documents. You'll have to apologize. I'll have to apologize to you because I know that it gets a little frustrating sometimes when I'm just giving you tons and tons and tons of stuff to read. But remember, this is taking the place of our seat time in class, and so it takes you 3 hours to read something. Understand that that's the time you would have spent sitting in front of me anyway. So couple things. I just want to throw something out at you. In this time, I get that it's frustrating and I get that it's hard to function in large part. But remember, my little sweeper is coming this way, so I apologize. Remember, in the midst of this tragedy, something kind of interesting is happening. Within the last week and a half, I've been contacted by two separate universities who are looking to establish emergency management programs. That's important because what it says is that people are opening their eyes to the importance of having a skilled emergency management professional in their ranks. So what that means for you is that as interest grows, and this is what this COVID-19 situation is doing. It's making people recognize that there's an importance to what it is we're doing, more so than what we already know it, but it's sometimes hard to communicate that to the general public. What that means is increased jobs, increased pay, increased training opportunities. They're going to have people now whose entire job it is to just plan for epidemics and pandemics, right? So if you're interested in that public health piece of it, there is going to be a lot of jobs opening up in the coming handful of years. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about some of my tips for tabletop exercises. So the first, as I sort of hinted at, is establish clear goals. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Tabletop exercises are great. They're relatively cheap. You can put them together not well sometimes, quickly, but you can put them together quickly, and they're useful, right? People walk away going, hey, I think I learned something. But the important thing is you need to make sure you establish clear goals in the very beginning as to where you want to get, right? That's going to determine whether or not tabletop is actually even a good option for you. By organizing your clear goals, you can keep your staff, the individuals that you're trying to work for, you can keep them on a clear sort of track because you're trying to get to point B and you're at point A. That's your goal, right? What else? Choose a relevant scenario. Sometimes this gets overused. I've made comments in class. I don't know how many times organizations or even the university has reached out to me and said, hey, we want to do an active shooter exercise. That is in the front of people's minds. That's where their interest is at. And so that's what they're wanting to exercise and practice. The key for you as someone who's designing these and conducting them is balancing the sort of relevant scenario with what it is that individuals need to learn. Okay, so it's hard to do an active shooter exercise if well, it's not hard, but it's harder if the problem is the individuals don't understand National Incident Management, NIMS, right? So that's not necessarily a relevant scenario to the problem that's in front of them. But that's going to be your job. That's figuring out the balance between what people want to experience and what they need to experience. Engage with your participants, right? Choosing the participants for a tabletop exercise can be a challenge, including a variety of staff members, of individuals. If you work for a large corporation, bringing more people to sort of the conversation is going to add different layers of value to your company, to your organization, to your county, to the state, wherever you're working, because they're going to bring in their piece of expertise that you probably don't have, and all of a sudden it's going to make your plan, your operations plan that you're doing this for, it's going to make it robust because you've got tons and tons of different perspectives coming in. Sometimes we can get blinders, and I'll go back to the example of the active shooter exercises that we've been doing for years. Sometimes we forget that there's other stuff going on outside of active shooter that we need to be practicing. So keep that in mind. It'll also be important to conduct the exercises with a moderator who can actively engage each participant. That means if someone is there and they're talking about communications or IT, and you don't really understand that sort of stuff, they're not going to feel challenged. They're not going to feel appreciated, and you're going to have some problem with feedback. So as emergency managers, we're sometimes forced to wear different hats or multiple hats. And so it could be that you have to do a little reading up on communications or a little reading up on IT before you begin to moderate. That way you can be sure to bring in their comments, observations, so on and so forth. Fourth, understand that failure is an option. I've said this in class, but I want to stress it again. You need to explain to people that failing in a tabletop exercise is something that could happen, as is failing in real life. I'm watching small businesses and even large businesses close because of this COVID-19. It's a reality in the world, right? And the type of mindset of thinking that failure is an option can extend to your tabletop exercise where your staff are determined not to fail. It's important that you stress that to your people. It's okay if they do not in a tabletop exercise, if they cannot do something, make note of it, and then what we'll do is we can assign training for that. We can assign additional coursework. There's all kinds of stuff we can do, but you need to make sure that your people understand it's okay that we drop the ball. It's okay that we don't do 100% perfect. That's hard to build in, especially in your private sector, because if a company does not make this amount of money, it's a failure, and they could cause them to close, the people could leave. There's all kinds of additional issues, but you need to make sure they understand in the exercise world, failure is an option, and it's actually could be a good option because it's going to identify gaps and holes in your plan or your procedures that you can fix, that it's going to bring them to the surface. It's going to bring them to light, and you can fix them. If you just act like it's okay and you just keep them below surface, are you really going to fix things? Are things going to actually get fixed? And then finally, gather feedback, right? One of the most, these are great, they're easy, inexpensive, but you want people's feedback. What went well, what went poorly, and what can we do better next time? Ask the participants what they thought of their experience. Did you enjoy this? Did you not enjoy it? What could have, if I was to have done a different scenario, would you have enjoyed it more? That sort of stuff. Gather that feedback, because that's going to allow you to do a better job next time. Remember, if you just go back to my last point, failure is an option. You doing even poorly at the exercise, conducting and designing the exercise, you're going to fix that for next time. So when it comes time for you to do the next exercise, you're going to take all this constructive feedback and you're going to change the things that need changed, and you're going to fix the things that need fixed, and you're going to tweak the things that need tweaked, and the product that you're sending out is going to be better. And remember, if your product is better, if the conducting of the exercise is done better, the learning is going to be better on behalf of the people who are participating. They're gonna pull more out of it. You're gonna identify more gaps, more holes in your plans. So there you go. That's my top 5 sort of tips for exercise design and conduct. So I look forward to reading your posts this week. I'm enjoying it. I wish we were together, but this is the world we live in right now. I'm enjoying reading your posts. I think that you guys are getting this stuff, and I'm super proud of you guys. So we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.